Okay, so at Omni Local Business Networking, we encourage you to talk about your business so that we can find out what you do, can we trust you to refer you, and what you actually do, because it's sometimes not always evident in your 60 seconds. If you want to talk about butterflies, brilliant. All we know is you know a shed load about butterflies. What I'd rather know is what you do, how you do it, and the type of connections you're looking to make. Yes, by all means, if you want to cover a bit of your history, that does help people get to know you a little bit better. But essentially, now we're going back to normality. If I'm going to be sitting in traffic, I want to be thinking about how I can refer you or how I can help you, not talk about your hobbies, your holidays, butterflies, anything. So this is a brilliant way for us to get to know you and your business and how professional you are doing what you do. So the floor is now yours, Gareth.
Well, hello. I put this together last year and I've sort of vaguely updated it to make it more emoji friendly, I suppose. It's slightly prettier. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk to you about what is inbound and what is outbound. And I'm going to give you a bit of a marketing 101, a quick whip round. And at the end of it, I encourage you to ask questions. It's the only way we learn anything, isn't it? All right, let's start off. So my name's Gareth Wax. And yes, that is a purple fedora. And the name of the company, partially because my wife's favorite color is purple. And I'm ever so slightly steampunk. And I like hats. So today's little agenda, we're going to talk about the common elements of marketing. You should know all this stuff, frankly, but if you don't, hopefully it won't be too much of a shock. We'll talk about what is inbound, which is fundamentally what LinkedIn's about. I'll touch on what is outbound because I own a telemarketing agency as well. And if you got to the point where you've encouraged loads of people in, but don't quite know how to turn, I'll tell you a story. Auntie Ida was great at knitting, but she never got the hang of turning the heel, you know? So she ended up making just lots of scarves. Now, the biggest problem we got there is if you wanted a scarf, that's great. But in fact, if you wanted socks, the most important part of that process was how do you turn the heel? So outbound marketing, which is telemarketing or email marketing, is often that gentle art of actually getting the meeting, which can then close for business. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Then we'll talk a bit about what is purple fedora, which is a better way of getting the best from LinkedIn. And then we'll have a bit of Q&A. All right? So hang on to your hats, loves. We're going for a bumpy one. Most important elements of marketing. I used to call this marketing 101, but do you know who your target audience is? Do you know, a lot of people really don't. They think everybody. If you must have come across, as I know John has, you say to them, so who do you want to, who'd be interested? Oh, everybody will be. Well, I guarantee they won't. And I promise you that the people you should start with are the ones who are most likely to buy. So let's focus on what your target audience is. And then there's this thing called ICAs, Ideal Client Avatars. That is the person within that target audience who is most likely going to understand your message. So who are they? And then it's all very well doing this activity, but how do we know what works and what doesn't? So you need to set up some sort of monitoring and some sort of feedback. And then, of course, the most important part of all, the so-called last mile, is the conversion bit. You get them all the way there. You've got them in your postcode, but you've got to get them through the door somehow. How are you going to do it? Let's quickly touch on, now, some people will have heard of inbound and outbound, and some people won't. But basically, inbound is the gentle art of not selling. It's really not marketing. All you're trying to say is, can you confirm that I'm an honest person with decent integrity, with honest purpose, with people standing behind me to say they really know what they're talking about? And then what you do is you attract people in because they want to, obviously, unless they're fools, they want to work with people with a proven entity, don't they? They want to work with a business that have proved themselves, that other people will say, you know, these guys, not only do they know what they're doing, but they'll help you get there. Now, remember that turning the heel business? That's really what outbound marketing is about. So with that, you're all about pitching, identifying, creating rapport, qualifying and closing. And that is often the pit where people struggle with, and that's why my telemarketing agency can come to the fore. More about that at a different time. I'm focusing on the inbound today, particularly LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a virtual monopoly. And the best way to interact with people on it is create the appeal. So talk about stuff that people are actually interested in, build the brand. So creating and putting out their posts and information that reaffirm to people what your brand's about, not just the identity, but where it's relevant to them. And then the key of it all is communicating that to people without trying to sell to them. So instead of saying, I want you to buy my Okie Kokie 2000, you might instead say, do you know there's this issue that you may have come across, that issue may come across. Most people don't realize that the Okie Kokie 2000 can really help with that. And if you want to find out more information, maybe you want to look here or there. But in the meantime, here's some top tips. It's a slightly different approach to the same problem. All right. So who exactly do you want to appeal to? Well, the most important thing is identifying your target audience. And, of course, defining low-hanging fruit. What I mean by that, you don't want to sell to everybody. I know it's a shock, but you don't want to sell to everybody. You want to sell to the people who are motivated to buy, and you want to sell to the people who are motivated to be interested in whatever it is you're talking about. So don't try and sell to the entire world. Don't try and market to the entire world. Try and focus on the people who are most likely to understand your messaging. And then you've got to define the key areas to talk about. So this is going back to what we were talking about before. Define your why. Why is it that what you do is actually going to help me? Make that crystal clear. Don't spend the time going around in circles. So many people are here doing that 60 seconds, talking about stuff. At the end of it, I'm still scratching my head, trying to work out where would I start working with them? How can I help them? Or more importantly, if I was talking to somebody else, how would I talk about them? Because remember, we all here are the extension of your marketing. If we're enthralled with what you're talking about and with you, we're going to say, do you know, I met X, Y, and Z the other day, and they know a shed load about butterflies. Oh, moving on. So let's talk finally about engaging. Now, it's all very well getting them all interested. You've got to get that corner, that heel turned. So how are you going to engage with them? Well, the best way to engage is on shared goals and reactions. So in other words, if you are really enthused about helping people write beautiful copy and they really want to write beautiful copy, that's how you're going to get them intrigued. So how do we know what works? Well, as your marketing goes on, you need to be able to stop and say, hang on, we had these goals in place. Have we achieved those goals? And if you remember John's form, it helps you define as you go along whether or not you are going to, is this a person you want to follow up with? Is this a person you want to build a relationship with? So set those little mini goals. Ask questions. Now, once you've got these people talking to you, LinkedIn gives you the facility to create polls. And polls are a great way of asking questions and getting feedback, as long as you make them focused and try and avoid things like, do you prefer coffee and tea? It's what devalues the polls on LinkedIn. Try and ask questions which are going to get people focused. And then last of all, out of all the people you've interacted with, be harsh and score them. Try and work out which ones are the ones that are most likely to move, because that's where you want to spend some effort. Okay. Now, when I talked before about building the brand, a lot of that is about reassurance, getting information out there that reassures people that you can do what you say you can do. Other people believe you can do what you say you can do. And here's some tips to enable you to be better at all the parts around it. So when you do engage with you, you're already ready to go. So a lot of these are what I call success story basics. Take a boring testimonial and make it into a little bit of a story so people feel like that could have been them. Gratitude posts, where you take somebody who sent you something, you post it, and then write about how it made you feel. And then that strapline, the call to action. So many posts I see out there that get lots of engagement, but just don't have a call to action. If you don't have a call to action, often people will go, that was a wonderful post, like, and then do nothing about it, which is great. But you want them really to have the impetus to say, do you know what? That actually has got me just at the right time. Yeah, all right, I can see. I should contact them and book a meeting. All right. So encourage them, not necessarily by saying, book a meeting with me, but something along the lines of, does this strike a chord? Is this catching you at the right time? Maybe we should talk. So the overall challenge, you're building your brand online. You're using data from somewhere like LinkedIn or maybe from websites or whatever. That's public facing information, that is. You're trying to use non-sales tactics to kind of get away from the very medium itself, because the ideal is you end up talking to people face to face or over the phone, or even, dare I say it, by Zoom. That's where that's what your endpoint should be. Remember, LinkedIn absolutely hate anyone using any kind of automation, and they'll literally come down on you like a ton of bricks. So you're trying to use mechanisms and abilities to get that through. And remember, my focus is a lot on LinkedIn today. And remember that the only nuanced responses are really produced not by machines or software, but by humans talking to humans. So I say research first, find out about the people you're trying to connect to, even if you know that they make sheds which contain butterflies. Make sure that that's who you want to contact, because research them first. And then when you send out the connection request, instead of saying, would you like to just extend my network? Instead say, we have a shared interest in sheds full of butterflies. Maybe we should connect. So what is Purple Fedora? Our focus is to help you define the target, do what we call a trial scrape to make sure we're on the right track, create connections for you, and then help go more wholesale at building up Effectify centralized public-facing database, which we're then going to track down, see if they've created content, like and follow that content, get them to start seeing you as the organization, the people with integrity that people stand behind and are certain of. And our process goes further than that. You can see that I'm not expecting to go into detail, but can you see we've got like a 15, 16 stage, 17 stage process that ends up with the development team the business development team contacting and building a relationship. That's our end point. Our end point is that you end up with more people interested in what you're about. I am going to skate past that because I just wanted to show you we actually do have a process. So in summary, research, don't just connect randomly. Jason, my business partner, Jason DeYoung, can explain to you in more detail how we do that and process, and maybe another time when you talk to him, we'll do that. But the whole point about it is a repeatable process, the way we do it, but we don't do it like a machine because we're based on humans, not software. Like and follow, because liking and following other people's content and commenting on it actually sends them a message that you're actually interested in them. Provide content such as posts and articles which show why you do what you do. People buy into that. And remember, the focus always is get them off the online onto the offline. So what I mean by that is don't exist, as far as they're concerned, only on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Try and get them to the point where they're talking to you either by phone, by Zoom, or even by email. But so there's a correspondence going on, because it's vanity to think that because they're interested in a post you wrote that they are somehow any more connected to you than the guy next door. Here's an example. This is a testimonial from one of our existing clients. But basically what it was, he knew how to do all the stuff that we do. He just couldn't focus on the process to get there. So we helped him do that. We took some of that off his shoulders and did about 80% of the work for him so he could give 20% nuanced responses. And there we have it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much,
Oh,
Gareth.
thank you. Oh, too much, too kind.
Listen, mate, listen, that is probably one of the best pitch platforms I've ever seen you do, and it goes right up there with a lot of the other quality ones there as well, mate. So really appreciate that. Before I'm going to just stop the video before we ask questions, because if anybody's watching this video, you want to have you've got some questions, please speak to Gareth. All his contact details will be in the description below.